Howdy, Tony Walker here. I'm going to do a little bit different video for you. My wife is known for a few years that if I could make a trip, that I would like to go up to the Northeast and see various places connected to the life of Jonathan Edwards. But, normally on stuff like that, time and usually money is a big deterrent. So I saw a couple weeks ago where Southwest Airlines was having a special sale on plane tickets, and when I saw that, I looked to see how much it would be to travel up to the Connecticut area, Massachusetts, and it was still a couple $100. But my wife sent me a message, like maybe a day into the sale or something, where she saw that if I maneuvered around the airports a little bit, went to a different airport than what I was thinking, that it dropped the price down to like a little bit over $100. And then, so I went there, I clicked on various things, put that the dates could be flexible, and that lowered it down to even $61. So a round trip ticket, direct flight without going anywhere else, to multiple airports from point A to point B was $61 total. And it costs $40 just to fill up our tank of gas one time in our vehicle. So for $61 to travel to and from the area that Jonathan Edwards lived was like a deal too good to be true. So very, very soon, in the next month or so, I'm going to travel up to Boston, and I will arrive in Boston on a Monday, and then my plan, let me say the plan, then I'll ask for your input. Get to Boston on a Monday afternoon, and then drive yonder way, maybe stop somewhere on Monday, check out something, I don't know. And then on Tuesday, spend the day in Stockbridge, where Jonathan Edwards spent most of the last few years of his life before he went to Princeton. So check out Stockbridge, go to the local museum history thing there, check out some Edwards items, his rotating desk where he would put the 6 books and could spin them around. I believe one of his chairs is there. So go check out those things. That'd be on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday, then I'll travel over, I think it's maybe an hour or two, back, going back towards Boston, and stop in Northampton on Wednesday. And in Northampton, that's where Edwards spent much of his life pastoring. That's where David Brainerd, Edward's daughter Jerusha, is buried. I haven't checked into it yet, but if I had to guess, I'm pretty sure Solomon Stoddard is buried there. So Wednesday, I'm going to spend the day in Northampton with a local historian who has a video on YouTube about Edwards and some of his history and things. So Wednesday will be a good day in Northampton. On Thursday, I'm going to travel south to Princeton, New Jersey. On Thursday, I'll be in Princeton, and that's where Edwards and his wife Sarah are buried at. So I'm going to go check out that, take a picture there, and then, amazingly, didn't know if this was going to work out. Thankfully, several pieces of this puzzle on this trip have all come together very nicely. At Princeton, where Edwards died, I'm probably mispronouncing the house, so I'm not going to attempt it, but the McLean House, I think it's called. At that home is where Edwards lived the last few months of his life. And then, he got the smallpox shot, and then for about the next month, got sick. And then on March 22nd, 1758 is when he passed away. Well, the place where that is, from my understanding, is now an office building. And the room where Edwards died of March 22nd, 1758, is the office of a vice president of sorts there at the school. So I didn't know if that was going to work out, and just got an email back today from them saying that that'll be fine. So I'm going to be able to go not just see the home where Edwards lived and died, and not just be able to step in the home, but actually go to the room where Edwards died and maybe make a video or a picture, and if they'll allow me, hopefully a quick video clip of that stop as well. And then, so that's Thursday, and then Friday, going to travel to New Haven at Yale, and going to be able to eat lunch with Mr. Ken Minkema, the executive director of the Jonathan Edwards Center. You're probably familiar with his name if you check out Edwards stuff. He said he'd eat lunch with me on Friday. I also wanted to see on my trip Edwards' desk, the actual desk that Edwards had for most of his life, much of his study life, and what's called the Badger portrait, which I believe I'm correct in saying this, is the only actual living picture that was ever painted of Jonathan Edwards. And believe, I could be wrong, but I think in Scotland, one of his correspondents said, people need to know what you look like in the years to come. You've never had a portrait made, so I'm going to fund that. So we'll have a portrait. And that actual, to my understanding, only living portrait that was ever made of Edwards, that in the desk, I thought that it was in an office building at Yale, but I found out that it's actually in a private home of someone who is a head of one of the colleges there at Yale. So I was kind of told that that wasn't going to work out. Well, what do? I get on the phone, start making phone calls. Said, I'm making this once-in-a-lifetime trip. Explained some things. I said, is there any way possible where just for a few seconds I would be able to view that desk and that portrait? And got a response back that that's going to work out well as too for a few minutes. I believe that'll be Friday morning, and then lunch with Mr. Minkema, and then hopefully, if they'll let me, Friday afternoon, go to the Rare Book Library and see some of the Edwards manuscripts. Love to see his blank Bible. But reading some of the stuff on Yale's website, or on the library website, it kind of made it sound like if you're not with if you're not doing actual research as part of a group or something, that's what that library is intended for. So I told him, I said, I'm not a scholar, I'm not with any group or any organization, I'm just a guy coming to check out some things, and I asked if somebody in my situation would be able to check out those rare documents and manuscripts, and haven't heard back from them yet, but hopefully I'll hear back from them soon. So the reason I mention this, many people only know one thing about Jonathan Edwards. He preached a sermon about hell that scared a lot of people, and for a long time that's all I knew. And then a few years after that, one New Year's Eve weekend, I looked up online his resolutions, which you can see right there hanging in my office. Looked those up online, and read through those. That, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, probably 7 to 10 years ago that was. And then 2012, 2013 in there, read a John Piper book about Jonathan Edwards, and then read The End for Which God Created the World. Not too long after that, I bought those right there, the 2-volume set of Edwards' works, and then a couple of books along that. And then on my bookshelf, I've been trying to collect some more of the works of Edwards. I admit, haven't read them all, but slowly working my way through what I can. And just, fascinated with him, fascinated with his life. Some of the things I read that he wrote is way over my head, and I will freely admit that. But the things that I can understand, it just makes me sit back and think, man, when the church voted him out, did they not realize what they had? And so anyway, so looking forward to this trip. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, if you are interested in Edwards, and you know of something that I definitely need to check out during my trip. Like I said, I'm going to land in Boston, then I'm going to travel over to Stockbridge, and then to Northampton, then down to Princeton, and then up to New Haven, and then then it'll be time to go and head back up towards Boston. Bought this Travel with Jonathan Edwards, and it's got some pictures and addresses and things. So I'm going to make sure I read through this and check it out and help map out my trip a little bit more. One thing I don't really, on one thing, and if you know, feel free to comment, from Northampton down to Princeton, going this way says it takes about 6 hours. Going down another road says it takes about 4 hours, but it's awful close to New York, and it also says it has tolls. Living in South Carolina, I don't even know how much that I would expect to pay for all the different tolls, and I've never even come close to driving in New York City traffic. The worst we have here is, waiting 30 seconds at a red light, unless you go up to Greenville, and then you wait a couple minutes. So I'm not really sure what to expect. So if you've got any advice on driving between, Boston and New York or Boston and New Jersey, if you know places that I absolutely have to avoid, or maybe it's not as bad as I would expect, feel free to comment on that as well. So again, I'm excited to be going on this little Jonathan Edwards tour. Thankful that my wife found the plane ticket really cheap, and that it ended up being only $60 for the whole trip. Looking forward to reading this book and checking out places that I need to check out in the life of Edwards. But I will freely admit, I'm definitely not a church history scholar or historian, or even much about American history, to be honest with you. So if you know some places between those points I mentioned, Boston, Northampton, Stockbridge, Princeton, New Haven, if you know some places that I definitely need to check out along the way, feel free to leave a comment on that. I'm going to be sure to take plenty of pictures, multitude of pictures. I'm going to try at each Edward spot to make a little 15-30-second video clip and put some of that together as well. I've never seen an actual documentary on Edwards, and I'm definitely not going to attempt that. But it would be cool, to have a little 5-10 minute YouTube video actually showing the actual location of some of these things in Edward's life, from his birthplace all the way to the room where he died, and then where he's buried at. So feel free to comment if you feel so inclined. Feel free to share this with people who know a lot more about Edwards than I do, and I'll be glad to accept any tips that will help make my trip as enjoyable and as informative as possible. I'll probably never get to do this again, so I'm trying to make sure I get everything lined up before I go. So take care, and we'll be talking to you in the next few weeks or month or so, and hopefully have a little bit more that we can show you on how the trip goes. Take care. See ya.